Hello, welcome back to the studio here in Northumberland. Today it's another watercolour, and this is a photograph that I took a couple of weeks ago in my mum's village, which is in Yorkshire, and that's just very handily, that's just outside the pub. I'm sitting here, I took a photograph of it there. So I'm going to do a very simple and quick drawing, but as you'll notice again, like normal, I've just taped the top and the bottom of the paper. I'm going to do the drawing and come across as far as I want, and then I'll tape off the sides before I start painting. So in order to do that, I need my glasses, my reading glasses. It's a sign of the times, I'm afraid. So I've got my IKEA pencil here. Lots of people will still say to me, what kind of pencil did you use? Is it a this or is it a that? It's a freebie. What I'm doing, I'll start about here. Yeah, about there. And that roof line, the top roof line, is going down slightly. You can see that, look, going down. If you're ever in any doubt and you're out on location and you can't see which way the roof line is going, because I see it all the time out on location with clients, and the roof lines are going the wrong way. If in doubt, in reality, not on the photograph, in reality, stand there with your pencil like so, making sure the pencil's horizontal. Touch the pencil to the base of the chimney there. Now that will tell you, is the roof line running down away from the pencil, or is it going up through the pencil? You can see there, it's going down. Apart from the shadow underneath it, which you probably can't see because of. There. So, that's a quick little tip. Roof line going up. Come down there. That will do. I've got one chimney on the end here. It's a little chimney. Now, this line here of the chimney needs to run parallel with that line there. So that's going down slightly as well, look, you see. And down that. Then that one goes down slightly the other way. And I've got a chimney pot on top. Here's where the roof line comes down here. And again there. And that line is coming down slightly there. And you'll notice I'm not worried about straight lines. This is an old characterful cottage, centuries old actually. You don't want perfect straight lines. You're not building a barrack house. This one comes down more at an angle, comes down further there. Down here. Let the roof line go past the end of the building there. And I've got a bush here, a big bush. If in doubt, stick a bush in. But as you can see, that one is actually there. What I'm not going to do is put the road signs in. I always think they make it look nasty. Nasty. I've got a bit of the wall coming here. And that comes up. Ever so slightly coming upwards. Here I've got a window. And there, just see. No, I was thinking that's an arched window. You see what I mean? There. But actually, I thought that was like an arched window. But actually, it's the top of the sign. So we don't want that. Now here, I've got a couple of big windows in the top. Another one there. And I'm afraid if you're finding this a bit boring, because it's all the same lines, tough. because I like to make sure that everybody sees everything that's going on in the drawing and the painting. Don't like to miss anything out. Otherwise you're getting shortchanged. There's another window. And another one there. A bit wider. There, that's better. And a door in the middle. Yeah, that's more or less done for the first building. Big trees behind that. And there on a bank that goes up behind the house, this place has got a very steep garden. And the garden comes up behind it like so. A few bushy bits there. And some more trees here. Lots and lots of greens in this picture. And we'll have a bit of tree coming out there, which comes up even taller. Here's the base of the wall, out there. And I don't like that. Take that down longer. Behind that, a little more trees here. It's a very green village. And I don't mean by that that they all run on electric cars. I mean, there's lots of greens in it. Here I've got one behind the building. And just here I've got the top of another house there, in amongst the trees. Don't need to fiddle about with that too much. Chimney on it there. Always nice to have some verticals in your picture, and your chimneys are good verticals. Another chimney there. And another bit of a house there, which is nice because it's a white building. And a couple of chimneys on it. Now, just lots more greenery. I've got a hedge that comes in here and ends just before the house there. And here I've got a gate. I'm going to change the gate a little bit. I've got a bit of wall there. See that just there? Bit of wall there. I'll have a gate post instead. I want to make it look a little bit older. Yeah, like I say, it's a very, very old village, this one. The church, which is just round the bend here, was built in the 1200s. So I'm going to have that gate open. Always nice to have a gate open because it invites you in rather than closing you off. And we'll have a path from the front of the house there. Then we've got another path there. Some grass underneath that. Sorry, grass. That's the side of the road there. Now, I've got a dry stone wall, a bit of dry stone wall. You see it curling out here. I'm going to make more of that. I want that to stick out a little bit more. And it just curls around the corner there. And then the path comes around there. Wall's curling around a little bit there. And now cut that off from there actually. I'm making my mind up on this as I'm going along, and that's what you should do. Look at things, change it as you want it. I'm going to have some big foliage coming down here, obviously, from this tree here, which is a nice frame for the picture. And I've got some greenery here, so you can just see the road in between it. And that's about that. What I'm going to do now is just tape this off. Actually, don't like that. I'll just change that slightly. That's better. And I'll tape that off at either side before I carry on. So just hang on 1 second. Now, as we know, quite often I take the mickey out of people that have made ludicrous comments on YouTube. But here's a comment which was a really good one and really constructive and useful actually. Someone said, when you've done the drawing, could you kind of like just show us the drawing for a second so we can pause it, freeze it, print it off or whatever. So I've now taped off both sides, the drawing's finished. So whoever you were, a very good suggestion. Here's the drawing.
Can you just move out to the light?
So you're just telling me what to do now?
Yeah.
That's enough. As ever, a very simple sky wash. Before any colours, loads and loads of water. And make sure you paint through the trees. I always say this, but people still forget. Paint through them, that way when you leave gaps in the foliage, there's no big clumps of white showing. See sky colour through them. I'm remembering that white building there. This is my 1.5 inch wash brush that I'm using, Aquafine. Mop up there. Now, this time, a bit different, I'm going to use cobalt blue. Oh, contentious. Bit of cobalt blue there. Plenty of water into it. Wipe that off. Got a build up of water there. Boom, boom, boom. A bit more there. Wash out, squeeze out, and I'm going to mop it up now. Take it down my white building again. Mop up again. Now just with a clean damp brush, suck some paint out, like so. Like that. And a bit there. Wash out again, squeeze out, mop it up at the bottom. I've got a little drip there. Get rid of the little drips, as my mother used to say. That normally meant me and my sister. Now I want a tiny, tiny touch of light red into my cobalt blue. Just so I've darkened it off ever so slightly. There. And drop a little bit back in there. A little bit there. And a little bit there. Wash out. Squeeze out. And where I've just put that colour, that mix, with a clean damp brush, soften it in. I've got a bit of cloud shadow. Easy, innit? And again, a bit there. That one's fine. Mop up again. Let that dry, and then it's time to get into the buildings. Now the sky is good and dry, so I'm going to start off on the big cottage, and I'm going to pre-wet this first. Then just drop all the colours in. This is just water. I'm using my number 8 round brush, like so. I don't know if you can hear that noise, but that's rain outside, hammering down on the studio. I think we're going to be washed away. A bit more down there. Like I say, this is just water. And I'm pre-wetting it so that all the colours will all run and merge together as I drop them in. Painting through the gate, that's going to be darker. There. Now, starting off with sand, Charles Evans sand. Bit of that there. I'll drop that in. And this is the only colour I'm going to fill in, totally fill in with sand. The others I'm just going to drop on top and let them spread. Bit there. As I always say, the sand is so useful for so many things. It's not just for stonework. Being called sand, you'd think it'd be quite good for beaches as well. Bit there. But it's good as a lightener. Put it into every colour you've got, one at a time. It'll lighten every colour. Good for flesh tone. Add a touch of light red to it. You've got flesh tone. Put it in there. Carefully around my windows and stuff. Like so. Just fill in. Now, I'll just mop up that bit there. Now, a little bit of yellow ochre. Just yellow ochre. When I say just, with any colour, I mean with water, obviously, but no other colour mixed in. Drop that on there. A bit there. Now I've got a tiny, tiny touch of light red. Don't want much. Notice I didn't put yellow ochre on that side, by the way. A little bit of light red, just here and there, don't want much. That's some light red on there though. And look, it's just spreading. Dab it on, let it spread. Now a little bit of raw umber. Get that there. A few touches here. Now more raw umber to this right hand side, because it's going to be the darkest side of the building. But again, just dabbing it on, let it spread. now a little bit of cobalt blue, because it's cobalt blue that I used in the sky. Like that. A few touches there, not much. But more cobalt blue with less watering on that side, so it's darker. Like so. That looks a real mess. It's supposed to, don't worry about it. Now, wash my brush out, clean it out, and just with a clean damp brush, just stroking the colours together, look, so that I'm making a different colour on the paper. And again, to this side. Just mop up that swirly bit first. Stroke together. Gentle strokes. Now I'm just going to let that dry for a few minutes. In the meantime, I can pop over here and do those buildings. There's no fiddling about with these ones. A little bit of raw umber. It's darker on that side there. A bit on the chimneys there. All with the round brush, number 8 round. That one is a white building, but I'm just going to put a little bit of burnt sienna, just burnt sienna, to the outer edge of the roof there, look. There. And there. The rest, I'm just going to leave it as it is. A bit of raw umber and burnt sienna mixed. Give me a red bricky type colour. Red bricky, that's a technical term for you there. More water into that. So I can have that there, lighter. More water into the raw umber. So I can have a lighter bit there, and there. And for that roof, cobalt blue, not ultramarine blue, cobalt blue and burnt sienna. A bit more burnt sienna. There. Plenty of water into that, and just fill the roof in. Now, you see, I don't actually like that colour, so I'm going to put more blue onto it. That's better. Now I like it. Wash out, squeeze out, soften that down. So that's the distant buildings done, apart from the chimney pots. Just let all that dry now for a few more minutes, then I can start with detailing that. Now the buildings have dried, into the roof now, and again I'm going to pre-wet it. Because I've got more than one colour going on here. It's not just bluey grey or burnt sienna, a few colours. And so, that's just water. Now, a little bit of raw umber. It's a stone roof as well, you see. But I want to make it slightly different.
Stone roof?
Yeah. Stone.
Slab?
Stone slabs rather than slab.
Oh.
God.
Learn something every day.
Sorry for you listening at home. I've got to explain everything. My life's not worth living if I don't. Bit of raw umber there. Now, a little bit of burnt sienna. Bit of that there. The pressures of being an artist. It's even worse when Brett's here as well. Then I have to explain everything twice. and then explain why I'm doing it.
You have to explain who Brett is.
Sorry?
You have to explain who Brett is.
In what?
You have to explain who Brett is.
Oh, you see what I mean?
Go on then.
Brett's my mate, who's also the computer geek of the business. Bit of that. Oh, so that's raw umber first, then a bit of burnt sienna. Now, a bit of blue, cobalt blue. Drop a bit of that in there as well. That's a multicoloured roof. Gosh, listen to the rain. I can't stand the rain against my window. Maybe I shouldn't sing.
No.
Wash out, squeeze out, and mop up there. Like that. Not like that, just like that. Then when that's dried, I'll put a few lines in to indicate that they're slabs, tiles, whatever you want to call them. Just let that dry for a second. But in the meantime, I can put some stonework into the building. So again, raw umber. And this time, it is just raw umber. Don't want too much paint. And a few bits there. Those corner slab things. You know what I mean, corner slab things. And a few there. Alternate. Now, I have a few stones on the building, but I'm actually going to put a window ledge there in stone as well. Just a stroke. Now, a few stones. Again, importantly, don't overdo it. Don't put millions of stones in there. It's just a few strokes. Just a bumpy, that's another technical term coming up, just to bumpy up the surface a bit. You know what I mean. Now a few of those over here as well. And that will do for them. Just while I'm waiting for that to dry a second, I'm just going to pop some chimney pots in there. Just a little bit of light red. It's a very simple single stroke. Apart from when there's two chimneys, then it's two strokes. Notice I'm not going to do that one because I've got a load of trees behind that. Now, cobalt blue and light red. Bit of water into there. And I'm going to put the windows in. And I've got 246 either side. I'm making the windows slightly smaller than they are. I've got 6 blobs, leaving a little bit of white paper showing in between each blob. Even I went quiet then for a second, you notice it? And I've covered up my Duff pencil line there now. All part of the plan, obviously. And well, I've just 4 in there, that it disappears above the top of the wall. The door in that cottage is cobalt blue, just by itself. Behind the blue door, is it blue door? What's the song? Actually, I think it's green door, isn't it? God, I talk some rubbish.
I'm not quite sure what you've got in mind.
It's a song. What's behind the blue door?
Mm-hmm.
Don't worry, folks, I'll just stick to the painting. Blue door. Now again, cobalt blue and light red. Quite dark this time. That's just because I put too much light red in. Cobalt blue, light red, fairly dark. Bit of water in there. And this is my rigger brush, number 4 rigger brush. Tiny little brush, lovely thing. And all I'm doing are a few, actually I'm a few diagonal strokes there first. Like so. And whilst I was waiting for that lot to dry, Gail's just Googled, and the song is The Green Door. Not that it matters, but I'm just telling you. Now, a few broken lines coming up here like so. And this is the only building that's getting any detail treatment. Obviously, I'm not doing anything in the distant building. Wiggly broken lines. So, not filling them all in. There. Couple over there. I've got that song in my head now. I'll leave that for a second. Now it's time for shadow in this building, and because the blue in my sky is cobalt blue, this time it's based on cobalt blue, alizarin crimson, like so, and knock it back a little bit with burnt sienna, a bit more blue. There we go, and that's the colour I'm after. So now what I'm going to do to start with, the light's coming from the left, so I'm putting some shadow in the top of the window there, then down the left hand side, and there, and again down the left hand side. My mum used to live just up this little lane here, and they used to use the house up there for filming Frost. Remember Inspector Frost? Used to use that a lot for filming. Bigger bit in the door and down there. A little bit on that window. Now, dip in again. You notice all that was done with one dip of the brush. Now, where the roof meets the building, a good, dark, strong line up there. Now, where I've just put that, now with a clean damp brush, soften it down at the base, look, like so. So that roof is casting a shadow onto the building, and it really makes the roof sit down on the building. Now a lot more water into the same mix. Look, I've got it really swimming there. It's swimmingly good. And a few bits on here, darkening that side, look. Glaze through there, you can still see the stones underneath it. Now with a clean damp brush, I'm just softening that up, dabbing it in, then that whole side is darker, which makes the most of the light on that side. I think we might be swimming out of this studio when we finish, Gail.
Mm-hmm.
There. Now I'm starting off with the stuff in the background here. And like I said, the garden goes up a steep bank. You can't really see that here. I know it does. But you can see there's a little garden shed up there at the top, which I haven't put in. But I want to give the effect of it going up there. So I'm just going to make the ground underneath it lighter with just yellow ochre. On there like so, catching the light there. Now, a little bit of hooker's green into the yellow ochre. There. Underneath like so. There. And now that ground is ready to carry the trees. What I'm going to do to start with is with my rigger brush. I'm just going to have a little bit of cobalt blue and light red mixed. Fairly dark. There. And just with the rigger I'm going to drag a few bits down. Nice and dark there. And now yellow ochre, good and strong. Just get it on the rigger. I'll put that down the opposite side there. Just with a clean, wet brush, tap on so it's not too lumpy. Thick and chunky, I meant. There. Now to my round brush. Starting off again with yellow ochre. And your water into that. And we'll just have some bits up here, look. I'm just stopping and looking. Yep. Yellow ochre there. A few bits of yellow ochre down here. This green for these trees, they're a little bit further back, so I don't want to make them too strong. And they're all kind of like in the light, really. So I've got hooker's green again, with a lot of yellow ochre into it. There's my hooker's green. A lot of yellow ochre there. A bit more. There you go. Plenty of water. Dab that on amongst that yellow ochre. Leave some gaps. Think about the poor old birds. They'll break their necks if they fill it all in when they try and fly through. Around where the chimney pot's going to be, I could easily take it out if I painted through it. Once it had dried, I could suck the paint out again. But it's easy enough to miss. And again, filling in there. Coming around the building there. Now, starting to dab on again. Leaving bits of yellow ochre here and there. A few bits down there. Now just blue, cobalt blue, of course that's the blue of the sky. There. Have some of that in there as well, look. It always sounds blue. That all sounds odd, sorry, putting blue into your trees or your grasses. But it's not going to come out bright blue eventually because it's going on top of the green. So what it is doing is just giving more depth to the green. few bits up there. Now, just with a clean damp brush, soften slightly, just dab on here and there. Yeah, easy peasy. The rest are bushier. But again, I'm just going to change colours here and there, but I am starting off again with yellow ochre. But yellow ochre there, bash it on, bish bash bosh. A few bits up here. Of course, that's the tree coming out the side there. On that one, I'm going to have Hooker's Green and Burnt Sienna. If you remember, last time it was Hooker's Green and Yellow Ochre. Hooker's Green and Burnt Sienna this time. Bit of that there. Shall I have Hooker's Green and Burnt Sienna? Yeah, I will. Hooker's Green and Burnt Sienna on the other big one as well. A bit more water into it this time. Just dabbing on. With a round brush, number 8 round. Number 8 round is perfect size, I think, because quite often a number 10 is too big to do fine points, like for instance if I wanted twigs, which I don't. Look, with the tip of my number 8 round I can just do some twigs. A number 10 would be too big for that kind of stuff. Whereas the number 6, you're fiddling about too much small detail. So a number 8, perfect size. Now a little bit of blue into that as well. Cobalt blue. Always keep the blue the same as in the sky. For anything natural, that is. Like if I'd wanted to, that door, I could have painted it in ultramarine blue. Because it's man-made. But for anything natural, keep it the same as blue as the sky. A few bits of that down there. If I wanted tree trunks, or the impression of tree trunks, without going to detail, now at this stage while it's still wet or damp, scrape out a little bit. Just with the back of my fingernail. And it's my little fingernail. Right. I'll let those dry before I paint those that are behind the wall. So now I can go to that one there. Again, yellow ochre. I'll get this one painted here, and then I'll give Gail's arm a rest. That kind of Miguel?
Very kind.
You should know I'm all heart.
Sorry, I'm laughing.
That's okay. Don't worry about it. You're just not eating tonight. Bit there.
Excuse me, who's cooking?
Oh, okay. Fine. Now, Hooker's Green and yellow ochre to start with. Hooker's Green, yellow ochre. Plenty of water into it. We'll start off with a bit of that up here. I'm going to change the greens on this as well, on this particular tree. So I'm getting the lighter stuff here and there. Then going to dark stuff, Hooker's Green and Burnt Sienna now. There, a darker green. Around that. Now carefully around the building. Carefully down this side. Spot it on there. A few bits in there. And this comes all the way down to the other side of the building as well. Like so. Now spread it up a little bit. And again down here. Keeping that green fairly strong. And like I keep saying, have you noticed how few times I have to dip in? These number 8 round brushes are just brilliant because they hold so much water. So when you dip into a mix, you can paint a lot with that colour before you have to dip in again. Now at this stage I'm just going to go around the gate post a little bit. Like so. Finally in that tree, a bit of blue, cobalt blue again. Pop that on there. A bit over there. Still cobalt blue, bit down here. See how nice and deep that is now. Again, carefully around that gate. You notice what I did there? I've gone into the cottage a bit there. Wash out, squeeze out, take it out. Easy peasy. Now, where I've just put the blue there, all very strong in the corner here, what I'm going to do with a clean damp brush is dab on and spread it upwards and outwards slightly, but leaving it good and strong near the building. Like so. And now I'll give Gail's arm 5 minutes. And just yellow ochre all the way along the top there. It's not a solid unbroken line. Look, I'm bringing it down a bit here and there as well. Now, a different green, hooker's green and light red. Different green yet again. Like that. And whilst that yellow ochre is still wet, just tap that in there like so, so that it softens into the base of the yellow ochre, leaving the yellow ochre on the top, here and there. And down there. Now, at the end there, that bit turns around the corner and goes into shadow kind of thing. So I'm going to put a little bit of blue into that mix that I'm using. Ultramarine blue, obviously. Sorry, cobalt blue, obviously. That's just made it darker, look there. For the end bit of the hedge. Like so. In the meantime, off with these trees here. So now, I'm afraid I'm going to have to move this page, this photograph. Yellow ochre again. Get my lighting first. Plenty of water. Yellow ochre there. On the tops. Not bothered about down here. Now Hooker's green and yellow ochre. Look how many different greens we've got going on that painting now. So many different greens, but it's all based on the same green. Hooker's green. Mix it with anything and everything you've got. Plenty of water into that. Tap that in there. I'll leave a little bit there for a bit of a bush. And coming down here. Bit of bushy stuff the other side of the hedge. This time I'll have a little bit of light red as well. Just light red, plenty of water into it. A few touches here and there, just dab it in, let it spread. Now a little bit of cobalt blue, just cobalt blue with water. Wash out, squeeze out, clean damp brush, stipple, just with a clean damp brush, soften the colours in a little bit. I'm going to let that dry a bit before I put some just yellow ochre in those bits. So I've got some like shrubs behind the hedge, if you know what I mean. In the meantime, there. Actually, there's a bit I forgot. I forgot the chimney pot on there, so just light red. That's just a stroke there, look, with the tip of my number 8 round brush. There. Those bushy bits behind the wall, before I paint the wall in, starting off with just yellow ochre, there. Then yellow, sorry, Hooker's green and light red. I always think of Hooker's green and light red, the mix. It's a lovely old-fashioned green in watercolours. Around that and that. Now up to where the wall's going to be. And again, stipple. There. And finally, on that, a little bit of blue. And the blue, cobalt blue again. I'm putting that mainly at the base there. Look. Not quite strong enough. There. Which helps to make that sit back behind the wall, once I've got the wall painted in, that is. Those for a few more minutes yet. So now it is time for the wall. Just with a clean damp brush again. Clean wet brush, sorry. I'm pre-wetting that in here. Just being careful not to go right up to the top where it might touch that, which is wet, and it would bleed down. That bit of blue has come off my bucket, which is fine. What's that? Again, just sand to start with. Put that in there. And I want want this wall to be lighter to stand in front of that one. That's just sand across there. Again, being careful to the top of the wall because all that bushy stuff is still wet. Now, a bit of yellow ochre. Actually, I'll do that bit of wall as well that's sticking out around the corner while I'm doing that. There. Bit of yellow ochre. I'll make that show up more in a minute. Plenty of water into the yellow ochre. And while all that sand's still wet, drop a bit of that yellow ochre on it. Let it spread. Now, tiny touch of light red. Plenty of water into it. Drop it on, let it spread. Now, tiny touch of cobalt blue again. Pop it on, let it spread. But overall, it's lighter than that. So now, clean damp brush, wash out, squeeze out. I'll just merge together slightly. I'll put some stonework into that once it's dried. That's my base colour on it. Have a bit of yellow ochre there as well. I'll mop up there for a second and let that dry before I put some stonework in it. Now I can go back to here. A little bit of strong yellow ochre. Very strong. And just pop that in there, look. Just something behind the hedge, coming up above the hedge. Bushy, shrubby stuff. That's another technical term for you, bushy, shrubby stuff. A little bit of green there, hooker's green and yellow ochre. And that's fairly weak. So that's just inside the garden. You see, you notice how I left the thing of the gate, the bar, one of the bars, 5-bar gate. Notice how I left it there. Well, that was pure accident. It just happened. Bit there, bit there. I'll leave that for a second now. Now, a little bit of stonework and detail into that wall. Again, with my number 8 round brush, and it's just raw umber. I'm putting a bit of top in there. Just a few kind of like diagonal stripes in there. Just drawing them across. A little bit of white paper left showing. Doesn't go amiss. But it's a little bit of light on top. Now, lay more brush on so I can get some stones in there. And it's just like the building. Don't start going bonkers painting loads of stones. You're not building this thing, you're painting it. A little bit more water in there, I think. Yeah, that's a bit better. And a few bits there. That'll do for that. Now, that bush there, and I've got yellow ochre again. What a surprise. This time, I'm splitting my brush, look. I can stipple on like that. Not like that, just like that. Split it again. I'm not going to hurt this brush. And these aquafine brushes I also use for my acrylics, and they get this kind of abuse every day of their lives. Now I've got hooker's green, burnt sienna, a lot of burnt sienna there, and a touch of cobalt blue. 3 colour mix there, look. Very dark, rich green. Split my brush again. See? And again. Stipple on. Stipple, stipple, stipple. And that bush is there in the photograph that I took. But I would have placed the bush there even if it weren't, because something like that casts a nice shadow onto a big wall behind it. Finally, touch of blue. Nearly dipped into the wrong blue then. Split it. Split it, stipple it. Bit coming down the bottom. Just a touch of digital art. It's a softening there. Digital art. I always amuse myself. Now, with my rigger brush, actually no, first of all, before that, I'll just pop in a little bit of cobalt blue and light red. Tiny touch of light red there. So I can very weakly just drop in the path there. Sorry, the path that goes in between the grass. Then I'll let that dry before I put the gate in, which is what I was going to do. But that part kind of like comes a little bit further up as well. So that it comes up here. Then it's ready for the grass either side of the path. In the meantime, I can put the shadow into the wall. So that shadow mix is the same as before. Cobalt blue, alizarin crimson, and a touch of burnt sienna. I'm just casting a shadow from the bush onto the wall. Like that. Now, underneath the top of the wall, where I've put those kind of like coping stones, a bit of shadow there as well, at the base of them. And just like I did when I painted the roof of the building, drag that down. Sorry, the shadow underneath the roof, I meant. So I'm softening it, look. Bit more shadow to go over here, but I'll leave that for the time being. In the meantime, I can go to the gate. We're not that far off now. Now, like I say, don't mix your blues, unless you're making a black. Then ultramarine blue is best. And there's no blue showing. It's a clear, strong black. And what I'm doing with my rigger brush, look, paint that gate in. Leaving a little bit of light to the left hand side. And through like so. And underneath there. Then the other gate post there. then one there, and another one there. And there will be shadow from that afterwards as well. Now, before I go any further with grasses and stuff, and this dry stone wall, grass here, before any of that, I'm going to put the road in, the track in. So for that, I've got cobalt blue and a touch of light red again. And plenty of water into it. And all I'm doing, with my 3/4 inch wash brush this time, just stroke across like so. I'm doing that first because it doesn't matter if I go into the grasses. You can imagine, because I'll paint over the road with the grasses, you can imagine if I painted the grass in first, I'd then have to be really careful up there. Whereas this way, I don't have to be careful. I'm not a naturally careful person. A bit more water into that mix. Take that around there. And disappear down there. Now that's the mix, cobalt blue and light red. Now I've got just light red with a heck of a lot of water into it. Look, just light red there. And a few strokes of that there as well. And again, wash out, squeeze out, clean damp brush, merge. That. At this stage, if you want, take a little bit of light out here and there. Just with the odd stroke. Now I'm going to go into these grasses here. Hooker's green and yellow ochre, straightforward. Oh, and all this finishing off bit now is all with my big 3/4 inch brush, 3/4 inch flat wash brush. Again, aquafine, and as you can tell, I use it for my acrylics as well. Lots of techniques to be had out of these brushes. Hooker's green and yellow ochre. I'm just popping that in underneath there. Down there. Up to the base of the wall. A few flicks here now. Like that. A few flicks there. And a little bit of that down here as well. Up to the road. Maybe a few little bits of white paper showing through here and there. And now into here. All just Hooker's green and yellow ochre mixed. Bumpy. Bumpy, technical term. Notice I've left a little bit of white there. There's a reason for that. I'll think of it in a minute. But seriously, that's so I can drop a little bit of yellow ochre just down there. And it's still pouring with rain outside. Now, while that's all drying to itself, before I start the dry stone wall here, I'm just going to pop a little bit of shadow from that gate and the hedge. So again, cobalt blue Alizarin crimson. Oh, too much alizarin crimson there, Evans. And a touch of burnt sienna. All I'm doing is pulling some shadow down from there, look, across there. And a bit there. See? We'll be on the edge of that grass there. I shall just pop a little bit into the base of that yellow ochre there, in between the hedge and the stuff behind it. Now to the dry stone wall here. Actually no, before I do that, I'm just going to put a little bit of shadow there as well. I'm just looking around to see where I want to put shadow. In there and a little bit in here. And more water into the shadow mix. We'll have a little bit there now on the wall. This is just to give it a bit of age. Now wash my brush out, squeeze out, soften that up a little bit. Be brave with these marks. Don't wash them out if you don't like them. There. Just gives a bit more age. Now, over here to the dry stone wall. I'm starting off with yellow ochre. Again, back to my 3/4 inch wash brush. Yellow ochre there. And I want to make more of this wall. Make it really come forward, bit of yellow ochre there. Now, raw umber, just raw umber. As I said, with water. When I say just, I mean just that colour with water. Bish bash bosh, bash it on. Now I'm making black. Ultramarine blue this time, ultramarine blue and burnt sienna, more or less equal quantities, and you've got black, no blue showing. Bish bash bosh, nice and dark there. Now I'll just put my palette down for a second. Of course now I need my credit card or a old hotel room card. I'm just scraping the coping stones on the top first. Leaving a gap in between each scrape so that the shadow is created by the dark paint gathering in those gaps. Now, higgledy-piggledy stones. Bring those down a bit more. There, dry stone wall. Isn't that simple? Now, a little bit of that lighter green grass there. Hooker's green and yellow ochre yet again. A lot of yellow ochre into it. And a little bit there. Carefully across there. And at this stage it'd be good to have a few flicky bits. Push it in, flick it up. Look. And I'm going to leave that for a second. Going to have shadow on there afterwards. But here, shrubbery and then a big tree coming off. I'm starting off with the shrubbery. We'll have yellow ochre and a touch of light red mixed. Split that brush. Just like I split my 3/4 inch, but my number 8 round brush, I'm splitting my 3/4 as well. Not going to hurt it. Stipple on there. Hooker's green and burnt sienna, I think. But as I said, if you look throughout the picture now, look at how many different greens we've got going on throughout that picture. All with just one green. Split that. Stipple on. Like so. And just at the base of that green, you can imagine what I'm going to do, can't you? Bit of blue. Cobalt blue. Just in there. Just with the corner of my 3/4 inch brush there. Out, squeeze out, soften it up a bit. One more bit to do now before final shadows, and that's this big tree coming out here. So I keep standing on the cable here. So before I actually do the foliage in that, I'm just going to go to my rigger brush for a second, and I've got cobalt blue and burnt sienna. And all I'm doing, look, just bring in a few twigs. A rigger brush is lovely for that look. Just let it flick and bounce around. Let it do its job. That'll do for that. Now, back to my big brush again, my 3/4 inch. And again, yellow ochre. Split the brush. And stipple. Don't want yellow ochre all over. Just a few bits here and there. Now, Hooker's green, burnt sienna, and a touch of cobalt blue, all in the same mix. Hooker's green, burnt sienna. I want this a nice, dark, rich green. It's practically silhouetted. Touch of cobalt blue. Split the brush. Stipple. Keep it split. And now, keep it nice and dark. Stipple on down here, and these take over from that stuff behind. All the way down here. In reality, this place here, this is like an overgrown tree. And there's a bench around here. And you just sit and look at the village. A little bit of blue, cobalt blue. split the brush again. People say to me when I'm doing trees in demos and stuff, what kind of tree is that? It's a big green one. Now, I need to let that dry, because there's one more thing to do, and that's final shadow. Now, everything's good and dried, a little bit in the top, but I'm not going to touch the top anyway. So it's that shadow mix again, cobalt blue, alizarin crimson, touch of burnt sienna. Yeah. A bit more blue. That's the puppy. Plenty of water into this. And what I'm going to do now is final shadows. Like for instance, that wall will cast some shadow there, look. Bring that further out a little bit. That tree is going to cast a big shadow across here. More water into my brush. And bring that across a little bit there. Still see the grasses through it there. Look. But don't make it all solid. Leave a few bits of the undercolour showing through here and there. Dabbing on. A bit there, a bit there. Shall I have a couple of touches there? Yeah, I will. Not so much shadow, there's an edge. Now, just a few dabs here and there on the road, just to give it a bit of texture. Oops. That's all right. And there we go. Job done. All I need to do now is take the tape off. And there we go. Finished painting. This one took quite a long time, but no part of it individually was really that difficult. You just don't need to fiddle about too much. It took a long time because there's a lot going on in it. The paints I used, Aquafine, students' quality paint really, there you go, and sand. That's not all the colours I use, but those are the Aquafine paints. Those are £1.80 on my website. They're pennies, they're for nothing. But some good strong colours, as you can see. Good strong pigment in there, even though it's students' quality. Dale Rowney Aquafine, they actually put natural pigment into it as well. And the Charles Evans sand, which, as I said, is just such a versatile colour. You can use it for so many things. The brushes I used, again, Aquafine. I only used 4 brushes in total. Number 8 round, number 4 rigger, 1.5 inch flat, 3/4 inch flat. As you can see, I use those for my acrylics as well. And look at the shape of that. And look at the shape of that. And remember, I split them to hell when I was doing the trees in there on some of the techniques. So they will stand a lot of abuse. This set is about 3 years old, and they're getting used every single day, 7 days a week, no less. The paper I used is called the Lantern Rough. Lovely textured paper. We sold this in 2 different sizes, A4 and A3. Lovely paper, Lantern Rough. And it will stand a lot of abuse as well. And as you'll notice, despite the amount of water that I've put on there, I'm still not getting ripples in it. It will take a lot of water. We've got plenty of books out in watercolours. There's the Top Tips, Charlie's Pocket Book, Bolts and Harbours in Watercolour, Coastal Landscapes, lots of them, all on the website. And the website, of course, is charlesevans.art.com. If you're on Twitter, check me out at Charles Evans Art. If you're not, get yourself on, because I put paintings on stage by stage. Whatever I'm doing in the studio here, I put them on Twitter all the time. So have a look, and hopefully you've enjoyed this one, and I'll see you again soon. Thank you very much.